And welcome to the 4th Ward Candidate Forum for the special election to fill the late Al Hoop's vacant City Council seat. My name is John Hall, and I serve as the President and CEO of the Marshalltown Area Chamber of Commerce. Tonight, we will be featuring the two candidates running in this race that are on the ballot for Tuesday, July 16th. As a reminder, tonight's event is being live streamed and will be available on demand following the event. Thank you to our partners from KFJB for providing this service. Before we get to the candidates, a bit of housekeeping. Tonight's format will be as follows. Candidates will have 90 seconds for opening remarks. I will then begin asking questions, and each candidate has 1 minute to respond. We will alternate who answers first for each question, and then finally both candidates will be given 60 seconds for closing remarks. I do reserve the right to press for specifics from candidates during the questions. If vague statements are made, I will ask for clarification or for a brief follow-up regarding a specific point. All candidates are asked to be respectful of each other's time and to keep their responses within the allocated time. I have a series of prepared questions for this evening's forum that only I have seen. However, to those in the audience and at home, we will be taking questions to ask the candidates as time allows. If you have a question relevant to both candidates, please text your question to 515-720-5305. I will ask that since tonight's focus is on the 4th Ward, that if you are a resident of the 4th Ward, that you please identify so in the message. All questions will be asked as time allows. This is on the honor system. Now to the candidates. In March, our community was rocked with the news of the sudden passing of Councilman Al Hoop. The City Council agreed that voters should have the opportunity to fill this vacancy on the City Council. Tonight, we will feature the two candidates running for this vacancy, Mark Eaton and Melissa Fonseca. Each candidate will be provided with equal time to respond to each question. Brittany will be keeping time and flashing the cards for 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and stop. We will begin tonight with opening remarks from each candidate. You have 90 seconds each, and we'll start with Mark.
Opening remarks?
Yep.
My name is Mark Eaton. I am a Marshalltown resident. I was not born here, but I have lived here pretty much my whole life, raised here. Lived here from, sorry about that, guys. I was raised here from the time I was 6 months old until high school. After I graduated high school, I got a degree from MCC, and my career took me around the world. I lived in Southern California, San Diego, near Miramar Air Force Base. I worked as a programmer, designing power plants. I also then went to college. I have a bachelor's degree from Brigham Young University in Utah. I have a master's in engineering. I have a master's in business from engineering with a graduate minor in computer integrated manufacturing. A lot of history, a lot of travel. I've traveled around the world. I've been as far south as Hobart, Tasmania, as far north as Ausland, Norway, near the Arctic Circle, Japan, Europe. I've worked in all these places. Lots of different cultures, lots of different religions, and people are in general good around the world. There are some bad apples in the bucket, but in general, they're all good. And I think that's true here, too. We have a lot of good people. Thank you.
Melissa, we'll go to you.
Hi, I'm Melissa Fonseca. Thank you all for being here today. I'm super excited to answer these questions and get my perspective out there. I am a Marshalltown native. I am a proud MHS Bobcat. I graduated back in 2014. I haven't lived anywhere other than studying abroad in Greece for a semester, and I am a very proud person of Marshalltown, been here my whole life, and I have very extensive volunteering experience. I mean, I have been a realtor for about 6 years now, and I own a local brokerage here. I am super excited to get to share what I think, and even though I'm new to politics, I will say that I am, but I think that 27 is a good age to get it started. And it definitely starts someplace, and I am happy to be here. And I also want to thank John and the Chamber for bringing us here today and having this candidate forum, because it does give the community a chance to come and meet us and see what we think. And if you're on the line, on the fence, who to vote for, I hope that today it becomes clear to you and you may share that and vote. But it's always important to go out to vote. Everybody's voice matters, so voting is very important. And I am happy to be here. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you both. We'll get into the first question. We'll begin this one with Melissa. So the City of Marshalltown and many different organizations have plans for growth and improvement of our community. What is your vision for the future of Marshalltown, and how do we get there?
So my vision for the City of Marshalltown, it definitely involves everything, a little bit of everything, and moving forward, making decisions to benefit all of the community. And I think that having a balance with all the projects that are going on, keeping our budget in mind, being responsible within the budget, that's always key. And I think that how we get there is to bring voices together. I think that the City Council is open to hearing everybody's opinion, and I'm excited. I have been attending the City Council meetings, and I appreciate everyone's input when it comes to the items on the agenda, and it's getting those perspectives out there. And that is how we get there, is hearing everybody and getting there one step at a time.
Thank you. Mark?
So I think when I moved back here in 2015, I saw a community that was ready to explode with development. You can see that in certain communities. I've driven through lots of small communities throughout the country. Some you can tell are dying. Some you can tell are able to grow. Marshalltown is able to grow. I feel that we handicap ourselves a bit, and I would like to see the government essentially get out of the way and not pick winners and losers, but create an open playing field so growth can happen organically. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to continue to lean into economic development and specifically workforce development with this next question. So Mark, we will begin with you. The entire country is suffering from labor shortages and workforce challenges, and Marshalltown is not immune. Given the large industries in our community and the significant job center that is the city of Marshalltown for surrounding communities, what strategies would you like us to pursue in order to overcome this workforce challenge locally?
So one of the things I think we need to focus on, but it's not in the city council's wheelhouse, is the educational environment that we have within the community. I think we need to have, I'm getting cues from the back to pick my microphone up. Sorry about that. So MCC was a great tool for me to leapfrog into a professional career. It was economical. It fit my budget. I paid for my own education, all of it. So MCC was a good platform to start from. And I think we need to leverage that type of environment. I'm glad to see the high school and the school system is putting more emphasis in shop class and those types of classes, those trades classes. I think that will help our labor environment. One of the things we have a problem with, like with MCC, with construction program, is that there's a demand for that labor and so much that they get hired before they graduate. And we need to kind of work on that and see if we can improve how that process works.
Melissa.
So being a boomerang myself, I came back to work here, and it wasn't an option to leave Marshalltown. I wanted to come back here, and I saw, I applied for multiple jobs. So if we're talking about the workforce, I think that it definitely, I think for me personally, I was going to come back anyways and work here. But for others to come in and work here, I think that it is important to provide and have amenities, have the available employment as well, because coming back here, there are sometimes it's hard to get a job. You know, it is, and I remember that getting out of college, and it's not a new thing that it's hard for college students to get jobs, but I do know that it is what is going to bring those boomerangs back here, what is going to bring those MHS Bobcats back here, and I think that is having Marshalltown be unique and growing.
Since you brought up the discussion about amenities, I want to jump to a question really about the Destination Iowa and the Lynn Creek District. So last year, the City of Marshalltown was successful at receiving a Destination Iowa grant for creative placemaking for the Lynn Creek District. Within this funding was support for 4 total projects, including the N.C. Kaiser Trailhead, Emerson Bridge, Martha Ellen Ty Playhouse, and the Apgar Family Water Plaza. Within the last year, Iowa Economic Development Authority Director Debbie Durham, a direct report of Republican Governor Kim Reynolds, has lauded Marshalltown as an example community for how to do creative placemaking, specifically with the Water Plaza project. If elected, would you support these projects for our community? Why or why not? Melissa, we'll begin with you. Yep.
Yes, of course I would support those projects. I think that being somebody who goes out and, you know, all these amenities are open to everybody of all ages and all abilities. And I think that when we set ourselves to be more unique, that is how it brings more of an attraction, either from people moving here or just those boomerangs coming back, anything like that. It definitely, making Marshalltown unique and special is the way to go. And I think with these special, unique things that aren't everywhere, it definitely sets us apart, and it will help us in the long run, especially with being part of, I don't know if being on the apps, if you get on apps a lot, you will see that there are trail apps that bring people from all across the world. So I think that if we're thinking about the vision and the growth of Marshalltown, that will be something that will happen, especially having those amenities for sure.
Mark.
I think the plans for amenities are good. I'm not against any of the amenities that have been planned. I'm not against trails. I am not against the water plaza. What I struggle with is figuring out how to fund it. And I've pushed for many years now to try and get everyone on board. How do we get, let me kind of say, taxpayer money is low-hanging fruit. As a community, if we're really Team Marshalltown, if we're really a community, then there are other funding sources that I would expect to be standing on the front line with the taxpayer. And I think we can achieve that and all get what we want, a fiscally sound government and amenities to enjoy. Thank you.
I'm going to push you on that a little bit for specifics on what is not at the table currently with those projects.
Well, to be honest, in the last couple of years, I've seen it get a lot better. Martha Ellen Ty's put in $1 million recently. And Kaiser Trust Fund is putting in money on the trailheads, and this is great news. I think that's what we need to do, and I think let's try and get more of that funding rather than taxing the person who's cutting meat on the JBS line. I think we have a lot more room at the top to move forward. There's a lot happening, positive, a lot, but I'd like to challenge more.
Very good. I am going to dive into a tax increment financing question now. So tax increment financing, or TIF, has been utilized to achieve investment and reinvestment in Marshalltown for many years. Recent projects have included Carl of Marshalltown's investment on the north side of town and the Willards and Hopkins building redevelopments in downtown Marshalltown. Neither of these projects would have occurred in these ways without this tool. Now, Mark, this will start with you, and since you specifically mentioned in your candidate questionnaire that many towns and the cities around have declined while Marshalltown has been able to maintain, but then go on to say that TIF and tax abatement are detrimental to growth, how do you square the success of the Marshalltown strategy in the past with the belief that this is a detriment? And are you in favor of utilizing TIF for projects like these, or would you like to see TIF done away with and presumably losing those projects mentioned?
TIF's a love-hate relationship. It's all about how you use it. It can be corrupt. It was invented in California in the 60s, and by the 70s, they'd banned it because of corruption. It can be used basically as wealth redistribution if it's not used right. Yes, you can use it right. If you can bring a business to town with TIF that also increases population and tax base, that's the proper way to use TIF. But to use TIF as a 10-year tax abatement is the total wrong way to use TIF, because it doesn't really lift your tax base up in the current time frame. Over time, 10, 20 years out, yes, but in that time frame, if you're using it as a tax abatement, the taxpayer is carrying the load.
So I want to press you a little bit on this, because in your TR response, you also said that you would want that you believe tax abatement is detrimental to growth as well. And so I'm just trying to square that up as we navigate this question.
So tax abatement. So you're a resident. You can get you build a new house, you can get a 3-year tax abatement. You can also get a 5-year or a 10-year amortized tax abatement. The 5 and 10-year are actually better tax abatements than the 3, because you get essentially 4 years worth of free taxes out of those. Now, while you're not paying taxes, all your neighbors are paying taxes to plow the road that you live on. Okay, it doesn't help restore the north side of town, where we have large homes, which can have, I might put my money into, but why, if I can build a new house on the south side of town and have no taxes for 3 years? So this is just a discussion. This is a way I think about the problem, and we need to seriously evaluate it. Is it really generating a return on investment? I don't think we can put the numbers on those things.
The one final piece I want to ask you a follow-up question, Melissa. I promise I'll get to you in just a moment. Is you did make mention of corruption in the utilization of TIF. Are you alleging corruption in Marshalltown with the utilization of TIF? You brought it up. I think that's a fair question to ask.
Okay, so I think I'm not going to say there's corruption. I'm going to say there can be favoritism. Would you like an example?
Please.
So you have an owner of a property, 2nd, 3rd, 4th generation owner, and he applies for TIF or a grant to build upper story apartments, which you want. Okay, you deny him this grant. For what reason? I don't know. He fought against the downtown SMID district. But then a new owner gets it and gets TIFs and grants. It seems from the outside looking in, there's some issues there. We need to figure out what those issues are. And I think that favoritism within the government is handicapping Marshalltown from growing.
All right. I'm going to ask that not happen again. That is not appropriate. That is not the environment that we seek to establish here. I'm going to move on to Melissa with the TIF question.
So with TIF, tax increment financing, it is important to know the history. I'm going to, think about, what my opponent just said, and I think that it is important to know the history because there has been, historic data on businesses keeping things in their pocket, and I think that that's not the way. And if we think about Marshalltown as a whole, it has been very conservative with TIF. It hasn't thrown around TIF everywhere. If we think about TIF as in like an old project, we think about Hy-Vee. That was a TIF project way back when that happened, the new Hy-Vee. And I think that if we look at Marshalltown as a whole in comparison to other communities, it has been very conservative if we see the data. And I think that it is important to have tax abatements for those new builds. I mean, it is a blessing to be able to build your own home. I mean, my parents built their home back in the early 2000s, and I don't know the specifics, but it is something that is part of the American dream, and I think that if you have that option and the city is willing to help you just a little bit to build your own house, then that's great.
Thank you. I am going to switch to the topic of the city budget. We've received a number of questions on that this evening, as expected, and Melissa, will begin with you. So balance of the city budget is of considerable importance. Every year we hear concerns of budget deficit. How would you address this as a city council member?
So with the budget, we know that the budget is very complex. I have met with city staff and know that each component of our budget has its own bucket, and having cuts from other places, that's it. All of those things, all of those buckets have their own rules, and if we can just manage the budget responsibly, I think we will be okay. And it is part of the city council to be responsible and make decisions regarding those deficits, regarding all of that. And I think that it's important to have as much information as we can from the finance department and the people who present during the city council meetings to let us know, and also our own information, reading up on that information. So, yeah.
Okay, Mark, we'll go to you.
She's correct. The budget is a complex beast, and it does have a lot of moving parts. I think we can do better with the budget. I don't think we need. And one of the questions that the TR asked is, do we cut? Well, I don't think we can cut anymore. I don't think that's the appropriate way to do it. I think it is to optimize what we want to spend money on. So are we going to fund certain projects over other projects? What's the return on investment that we need to get? I don't think using local option sales tax to fill the hole in the budget is a good idea. I think we need to streamline it.
Thank you. We're going to dive into a code enforcement question, and Mark, will begin with you. So, aesthetics matter. Code enforcement has been lacking throughout the community. How would you like to see the city address nuisance property, and how would you respond to property owners' concerns about their individual property rights as a balance?
So code enforcement is a tough problem. Now, I want to explain kind of the way I look at things. I look at the city like a HOA. You want to move into the city limits and reside in the city limits, then you have to abide by the rules of the HOA. The problem is that in a city level, your rules are kind of obscure. In fact, this leads me to something very positive. But so today I'm reading the housing code the building codes and all of this stuff. And we're using an international property maintenance code put on by a consortium, written by a consortium of people. It's copyrighted. It's not in our code of ordinances. You can't read it. Turns out, and I asked the question of Alicia today, do we have a hardbound copy of this copyrighted code that we're supposed to be enforcing? And she said no, but she also said, I just reached out to the library and said, can we get a copy for the people to have access to? And the library said, yeah, we'll order it. We'll have it tomorrow. And I thought that was like awesome and above and beyond for Alicia to do.
Melissa.
Can you repeat the question, John, please?
Yep. So aesthetics matter. Code enforcement has been lacking. How would you like to see the city address nuisance property, and how would you respond to a property owner's concerns about their individual property rights?
So code enforcement is necessary for our city. I like the analogy about it being like a homeowners association, an HOA, because we don't have a lot of HOAs in Marshalltown, by the way, but in the bigger scheme of things, keeping your yards cleaned up, mowing and just keeping up with the standards as a whole, I think that is very important. And I think that when we talk about property, our owners' rights, we do have those, and we do have, you can do what you'd like with your property. And I think that when I've heard people come to the community members come to the city council meetings, they've said, okay, like there are issues with, junk in the yard and, grass not being kept up. And it is important to speak those things, because it then brings us maybe with that individual or that ward counselor can have a one-on-one with them and get to know and go and try to get that information to whoever is in that neighborhood, and communicate is key here. Communication is key. What is it, communicate?
Thank you. One of the questions that we had come in from a 4th Ward resident is about the welcoming and diverse nature of our community, and how do you foresee your role and work towards making Marshalltown a more inclusive community where all people's voices are heard? And Melissa, we will start with you on that one.
So with inclusivity, I think that it is very important. Growing up here, every year there has been something new, something just more inclusive in a way that it brings Marshalltown together. And that can be shown in many different ways, especially with having, for example, having a section in the TR page that is in Spanish. And I actually got the copies of all of those and provided them to my Spanish-speaking family that prefer to read news in Spanish and understand it a lot better. And I think that bringing those things in and all across the board, I think that Marshalltown has pride in its diversity. And as we keep going, it is very important to, kind of bring in all those voices, especially all the languages, and being having different diverse facets in our community.
Mark?
Marshalltown is a diverse community, and I think that's what gives it its uniqueness. When I was growing up, I had friends who had parents who immigrated from Germany who only spoke German. And when I was in high school, there was an influx of people from Laos. We were giving them shelter. Currently, Mr. Lottehoff is helping a group of Ukrainians, big Spanish influence. I'm working on my Spanish. I can't have a conversation in it, but I think it gives us all pause to reflect on that diversity. I respect all of the immigrants and their plights which they have had to endure to get to freedom. And I want to keep that freedom within the community.
Thank you. One of the big topics that has been circulating through our city over the last year has been a lot of leadership voids within City Hall and key staff positions that are currently vacant. And so, Mark, we'll start with you. What will be your perspective as a city council member to create a stable work environment for city staff and improve retention?
Okay, so if you understand the hierarchy of the government, all city staff work for the city administrator. The city administrator works for the council. So we have to work closely with the city administrator in order to maintain a good working environment within the city. We're working on getting a new city administrator, and then we're going to have to work on a fire chief and a police chief and housing and community development director. So we've got a lot to do.
Melissa.
These roles are very important to Marshalltown, and I think that the city staff, the HR and the city staff has been working hard to get these positions filled. I think that hopefully sooner rather than later they will be filled. They've been empty for a really long time, and I think that it is definitely priority. And so with that, I think that having the right candidate is definitely another important thing, the right candidates for the jobs. And so once that pops up and, there is a candidate, and I hope that they are happy to join the team and be part of the city staff, and just having a good job atmosphere is definitely what I would hope for them as well. So.
Melissa, this is going to start with you. Taking an active role in the community is seen as a key component of this position. Please share local volunteer activities over the last 12 to 24 months.
Yes, so just the most recent one, I was at the July 3rd and July 4th festivities, and I went out to help set up for the July 3rd car show over at the West End Park. I get that confused because the restaurant's down there, West End Park, and so that was the third, and then the fourth, I went out and helped monitor the bouncy houses. So I did that just recently, and in the past 12 to 24 months, I have done ringing for the Salvation Army. We have a Realtor Ring Day, our annual one that I've been doing since I became a realtor, and I have. I'm also a part of the My Marshalltown Civic Pride Group, which we volunteer to clean up Peterson Park, and we will be doing ongoing volunteering throughout the next 12 months. So, yeah, it's been present, and it's going to keep being present in my life.
Mark.
I currently do not volunteer for any organizations. However, I was recently appointed to the Board of Adjustments by the mayor, and I appreciate that appointment. I'll be able to serve the community that way.
Thank you. A couple of questions have come in about really top priorities. So, Mark, we'll start with you. Tell us your top 2 priorities if you're elected.
My top 2 priorities. Number 1 is the budget. We have to understand and resolve the issues that we have with the budget. If we don't do that, we can't do the growth that we need, and we also can't we can't keep our taxes low and compete with other communities. We really need to work on the budget. That's my number 1 priority, and I don't think I have a number 2 that runs second.
Melissa.
So top priorities, I think they can be categorized with long term and short term, and I think with the long term is obviously keeping the budget in our minds and keeping it in line with the growth of Marshalltown and what the community's needs are. And and I think for a short term one, if elected, I really would like to bring more people to the table and bring them to see what the city government does. What is Marshalltown City Hall all about? I mean, I have talked to so many people, I'm running for city council, and they're like, okay, what is that? Okay, well, I want to bring more of that, and I think that I am the person who can reach a broader range of people, especially the generation who hasn't been as involved, and it starts definitely from that communication.
Very good. So the next question is a component of it has been submitted and tweaked and added to, and I think I've got the formulation of the question that I'm looking for here, and we'll start with Melissa on this. So some specific funding levies were eliminated by the state legislature, leaving it up to communities to figure out supporting and financing these programs. Most notably, the Marshalltown Public Library, the Marshalltown Arts and Civic Center, and the Municipal Band all saw their levies eliminated. Do you support funding these programs going forward at their full levies?
Yes, I do. I actually, when I was at the July 4th event volunteering, I saw the municipal band there and communicated with them, and they let me know that they had been funded for 102 years. Our Marshalltown band was funded for 102 years. That's what one of the members told me, and I was like, whoa. And that is history there. And I think that the public library and the Marshalltown Arts and Culture Alliance, Marshalltown Arts and Alliance, they are important components. They're very, very important. A lot of people use the library for a different variety of things, and I think the Marshalltown Arts and Cultural Alliance, they have helped tremendously with the vibrancy, the look, they use whatever they have, and they can make it so much more with all they do with the grant writing. And I think that supporting these the public library, the band, and the Arts and Culture Alliance is very important.
Mark.
Okay, so let's talk about some details and some misunderstandings. So even though the state took away the legal protection of those levies, they did not eliminate those levies. The money was eliminated by the city council because the budget could not bear some of those costs. Now, I support the band. I support their existence. I bought a t-shirt. So, and I can do more. But the problem is, okay, from another standpoint is, if you're going to tax me to support a nonprofit, then why should I donate to that nonprofit? I can donate more outside if I'm not taxed to do it. I'm more generous with my donation. So I think, and from the library standpoint, we got to work together on that organization and that business and that group to be able to fund it to what they feel they need and what we can work out. So, thank you.
One of the questions that we received was a question about how to help and support small businesses in Marshalltown, and if you have any specific code recommendations or code changes that you would like to see to make them more successful or help them be more successful. And Mark, we'll start with you.
Okay, so my whole underlying agenda is government, stay away. I have a small business. There are other people in the community with small businesses who kind of feel the same. I don't want you to go and tax or reroute money to my specific venture. I need to stand and succeed or fail on my own. Now, as far as codes, I don't have any, as a small business owner, I don't have any codes that are bothering me at the moment. So I can't say anything towards that. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa?
Could you repeat the question, John? You had like a couple parts in that question. Sorry.
Yep. So how would you help small businesses in Marshalltown be more successful, and what would you change? Are there specific codes that you would change to help them be more successful?
So helping small businesses I am a small business, so I think that bringing more education on, how to, from a standpoint of the city, I think that it definitely starts with, helping out with, like those the buildings downtown, like what can be offered if somebody comes in and, makes this a brand new restaurant, makes this a brand new store, makes it a brand new, whatever the case may be, what can the city do to help? And I think that right there, showing that the city is willing to help those people, those young entrepreneurs or anybody, to go and, start their own business downtown. And I think that is very important. And even with local businesses already, I think that they have the right to come voice their opinion and let the council know how any of the codes are affecting them. So if there is something that is affecting them, I think that it is important that they know that they can come to the council and, speak in the public comment and show that.
Mark, is your microphone dying? Okay, I've got spare batteries over here. I'm going to ask the next question and start with Melissa. And Mark, I'm happy to repeat it if we get to you and you need that. So, Melissa, you brought up downtown. So our downtown was significantly impacted by the natural disasters, but has recently seen some great new investments. Main Street, following the State Street rebuild, is set to undergo full infrastructure rebuild, including new streetscapes. Do you support this investment, and what is your vision for downtown and this project?
So when Main Street gets going, after State Street is done and it looks great, I think that it will definitely bring a new look to Marshalltown, the downtown Marshalltown, which is the heart of Marshalltown. And seeing that community, that downtown community, have a fresh new street will definitely, just have a nice feel. And I think that in that way, it will support those local businesses downtown because it'll bring that aesthetic that maybe isn't there all the way, but it will be. And it is important to, start, the roads are important and they are in the budget, and the city has spent millions of dollars on them. And I think that, showing that the Main Street, is starting there and it's going to keep going, I think that's important for the community to know.
Thank you. Yep, Mark, I'm happy to repeat it. So our downtown was significantly impacted by the natural disasters, but has recently seen some great new investments. Main Street, following the State Street rebuild, is set to undergo full infrastructure rebuild, including new streetscapes. Do you support this investment, and what is your vision for downtown and this project?
I just want to say it's about time. We've needed this for a long time. And starting in the core of the city is a good place to start. It's going to take us a while. We've got to be patient. There's 6 or 7 phases left, and that's 6 or 7 years, or maybe even 8, depending on the weather. And so we've got about 8 years of work to do downtown. But while we're doing that, we can't neglect the rest of the community, because reports that the city have about roads and their conditions say that we need to be spending a significant amount of money each year on local streets, your streets, not just the heavily trafficked streets. And so we've got a lot of work to do, and that's what the city council is all about. So thank you.
So, Mark, we're going to start with you and continue leaning into this conversation on road infrastructure. So road infrastructure continues to be a large topic in our community, especially coming out of the failed franchise fee vote. How would you like to prioritize improvement of our crumbling infrastructure, and how would you propose we pay for it?
So one of the things, the franchise fee, that was kind of a contentious vote. 3,400 people showed up. That's the most it's voted for a while. I think that was good to see that everybody could vote. But I think that failed specifically because there wasn't a plan. I think the city needs to have a master plan for roads and street repair. And that can go along with our ADA master plan. And how are we going to fund it? We're going to fund it with taxes. And so we've got to be careful where we spend the other taxes.
Melissa.
So with the franchise fee, when that vote didn't pass, the majority said no, right? And I think that maybe in the future, if it were to come up again and, those maybe some type of plan is available, for what I think it goes back to what information can be provided to the voters, what can get them to, understand what it will entail for them when it comes to, the cost for them. And I think that at that time it was a 5% franchise fee on the utilities. And if that gets changed to a different number, lower than that, I think that maybe that would be, maybe the community would be more open to that in the future. However, with all the thoughts on the roads and everything, this was something that was going to go specifically to the roads. And, the council has the authority to say what it will go to before it gets voted on. And it was expressed that it was going to go towards the roads.
To provide just a little clarity there, not the entirety of this was set to go to the roads. It was spread out. Yep.
Okay,
sorry. Mark brought up the idea of a master plan, and I want to start with Melissa on this one. And this is about the city's recently passed Arts and Culture Master Plan. This plan was passed unanimously through the City Council, but recently the City Council has come under some criticism regarding the investments being made in arts, culture, and creative placemaking. Do you support the master plan effort that was financed by the city? And Melissa, we'll start with you.
Yes, I think that the master plan from the Arts and Culture Alliance was, it is a strong plan, and I think that the Alliance's staff has been working really hard to, express all the importance around it, and it is an important thing, especially for, Marshalltown's health and Marshalltown's vibrancy and moving forward. And I think that it definitely, I do support it because I do appreciate, what comes out of it, especially if we think about it in the long term and what it will mean for, our kids, our grandkids, and if we think back and see what was done then and what will be, and what we've enjoyed now, it's the same thing as like what is still not happening but will happen. And that's always a good thing to look forward to.
Mark.
I do support the Arts and Cultural Alliance and their goals. The master plan is a good way to put that down. Now I'm going to go a different way. Is it the top priority? Is it I think infrastructure and budget and growth are top priority. Arts and Cultural Alliance will add some value to that, and I appreciate that position. From that position, the Arts and Cultural Alliance's goals. I think Amber does a fine job of leading that and cheerleading it, and I think that they have some great goals.
So, thinking about how we grow our community, one of the things that we routinely hear from our business community is that workforce barriers are the number one challenge being faced by them. One of the main challenges within this broad area is housing availability and new housing development. In 2021, the Chamber of Commerce, in partnership with the City of Marshalltown, Marshall County, and our business community, launched a new home buyer incentive in order to drive new housing development at a more rapid pace. What would you do as a council member to help us continue accelerating housing development locally? And Mark, we'll start with you.
Again, my underlying process is government needs to stay out of the way. We do need housing. We need infill housing. We've got a lot of infill lots. We seem to have a lot of rules and regulations which prevent us from achieving that infill development. For example, I had a house. It was not my house. It was in my neighborhood. I wanted to buy it. It caught on fire. I could rehab it. But the city basically told me, no, it has to be torn down. To what end? Now it's a vacant lot. And so now I build a new house on it and move in it with a tax abatement, and I don't pay taxes for 4 years. I don't think that was a really good fiscal plan. I think that the government needs to stay out of the way and provide more freedom. We recently rezoned the whole community, and in doing so, we changed the house size to 700 square feet, the minimum house size. Well, I live in a 672 square foot house, my wife and I, and it's 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. And it's my executive suite. I don't know why we can't have more properties like that. But we have rules that are now in our way.
Melissa.
So with incentivizing the new construction, there are a lot of developers who are, out there getting those vacant lots going, and it does take, a buyer to want to build a new house. And I think that after, seeing, all the costs with, getting their loan, and, that's just something that is, I even in my profession, I've sold a couple lots over there in the new addition, and they've commented to me, my clients have said, is there anything that is going to be new for us to, build here? And I'm like, yes, there is the incentive, and there has been different ones throughout the years, and I think that is a positive thing for the Marshalltownian who wants to build and live here and just establish their roots here. It's something that does benefit.
I want to turn to a topic that has been really a black eye for our community for probably the last 6 or 7 months, and is highly prevalent in the 4th Ward, and that is the mall and the mall redevelopment. And Melissa, I want to start with you. Talk to me a little bit about the perspective that you would bring as the representative of the 4th Ward on how to manage a redevelopment effort for the 4th Ward, and involvement from the City Council in doing so.
The mall is in the 4th Ward, so it definitely is going to be something that, at first it's privately owned. So, if the owners don't agree to sell, then what can be done at that point? It's getting past that point, and once it has been past that point, and there's the mall is back in good hands, I think that the potential for that lot, all those acres there, is great. It would be something that the Marshalltown community can, because the Marshalltown community has been vocal about it, like, what's going on with the mall, what's going on with the mall, and, once that good news comes in that the mall is back into somebody who is willing to open the doors to getting it to whatever it's going to be, but it goes back to that crucial step that it needs to be sold.
Mark.
So Melissa's correct. It's a private entity, and the city, okay, so what can the city do with that? How, again, my underlying theme is government needs to stay out and it needs to work itself out. That's unfortunate. However, the city does have a property maintenance code. If you look at it, there's a lot of property codes in there that they're in violation of. So I think that's one way to remedy the issue, but you can't target them. That's not the whole city needs to look at those codes, and they need to make sure they're not in violation of those codes. If the city's going to enforce those codes, they have to enforce them uniformly.
Mark, we're going to start with you on this one. During the past 6 years, Marshalltown has been hit with two devastating weather events, the tornado and the derecho. How do you propose we mitigate our financial exposure from a potential weather event that could have catastrophic impact to our financial condition? And Mark, we'll start with you on that.
So the city council's already in the process of doing that. They're creating a safety net fund to supplement insurance, which if the insurance can't cover, that safety net will kick in.
Melissa?
So when I met with city staff on the budget, I remember her explaining to me that there is a specific amount that would be used if anything like that were to happen, and things can be done, quicker and helping the community faster. We got hit with two right in a row, to be honest, and it did bring a lot of. Now we look back and wow, now we have made so much progress, and it came from the community coming together. And I think that Marshalltown is a super united community when it comes to those disasters, and we saw that. And looking back, I think that I was I was working here, and it was definitely a different time. And I think that looking back, we are moving forward, and I think that within the budget and the city council, I think that whatever the decisions that were made, I think they were they led us to be where we're at now, which is at a very better spot.
All right. Well, we are nearly out of time, so we are going to transition into closing remarks. Melissa, you will go first, and then Mark, you will get the final word.
Well, I want to thank everybody for being here today. I hope that you can know my perspective a little bit more and know that I am a dedicated person in this community. Even though the government side of things is new to me, I have always been an active volunteer, an active advocate for this community since a very long time. And I think that I bring a different perspective that has not been in Marshalltown in a very long time. And that perspective is from being a woman, and one that has not ever been in Marshalltown at all is a perspective of a diverse background. And my diverse background is a part of this community, and it is something that I am proud of. And I think that this is a step forward, especially for our city government and the representation of our city council reflecting what the people look like as well.
Mark?
Again, I want to thank everyone for coming. The participation is great. I was at the county supervisors meeting, and there was only a handful of people there. So this is very good. I think my goal is to get more and more people active in the local government and understanding how it affects your taxes. You have you have the most power in your local government. You can reach out and ask questions of staff, and we are a community of the right size that you can get those answers and get guidance with them. And I've been attending city council meetings since I returned in 2016. I've been active in the community, although not volunteering in any specific organization. It takes a lot of time to go to those meetings and understand where the county supervisors are, the 911, the EMS, and all of that time adds up. And I'm here respectfully asking for your vote for city council.
Thank you to both of the candidates. Thank you for everybody for being here this evening. We are going to wrap up with a final reminder that this race is on the ballot for Tuesday, July 16th. That is next Tuesday. Voting is currently taking place at the county courthouse for those that are 4th Ward residents. Thank you again to the candidates for participating this evening. Have a good night.